Gentlemen, here we are, episode 54 of the Hard to Kill podcast. We're joined today by none other of Zachary Leclair. What's going on, brother? Long time.
How's it going? Been a minute.
Going, my friend. It's going. Where you at? You at your house right now?
Yeah, at the house down in fucking Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. Okay, so I'm surprised you never link up with Kilgore, man. He's down in your hood, no?
I've tried it. I've hit him up a couple times, but he's got
He's
kids.
busy.
I've
He's
got
busy
kids.
doing pastor things, bro. You see him
Right,
pumping out
exactly.
sermons, right?
Always busy.
But
So
all right. So where are we gonna start here? Let's kind of get into how the Marines came about for you, man. Was is that a family thing for you, or is it just something you always wanted to do, bro?
no, not so much a family thing. I mean, I started it. It turned into that. I don't know, man. I was living up in Chicago, Illinois, out in the suburbs. Through high school and stuff like that, and I had buddies that were graduating earlier than, or not earlier, but they were older and stuff like that. And I just knew college wasn't it for me. I wasn't good with school and whatnot. So I was like, you know what, I got to figure something else out. And I had a bunch of buddies that were going off and, older cousins and whatnot that wanted to join. So they joined up. And, from there, I was just like, all right, well, that's where I'm going.
Now,
So
what year was this
when I joined or when I knew I wanted to
when
join,
you joined?
I joined in 2006.
Okay,
Yeah, I went in 2006. I think what was it? November, September? No, August. August of 2006.
okay. So what was going on around that time when you joined? Really, what was the
I mean, they
scuttlebutt,
still
if you
had
will?
they still had Iraq going on. They had, Afghanistan was a pretty big thing, but not, I guess it was more that was more like the early years of it. At that point in time, the big thing was still Iraq.
Okay. So your mom mustn't have been too keen on you going, dude. Was that an issue at all for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My parents offered me everything. I don't know where they were getting the money for it, but they were talking about, we'll buy you a car, any car you want. We'll do this, we'll
So
do that.
they ployed you with everything, and you
They
weren't
tried.
going.
They tried. It didn't work out. It wasn't for me.
All right. Now, were you a West Coast guy?
Yeah, for boot camp, yeah, I went yeah, Illinois goes over to
What is this bullshit about being West Coast and being the real Marines with the hills and everything, man? Like, where
well,
does
yeah,
that
you
come
know how
from?
it is. The East Coast guys, they don't get all that shit. They get to walk on flat ground and they got bugs.
Yeah. Hey.
Everybody's got bugs. Not everybody's got mountains.
Okay. So let's talk about you getting in the Marines, man. What was it like? Taking that ride over, coming out on the. I mean, do you guys have like yellow footprints as well, or I
Oh, of
mean, do
course.
they blue over there or something with hills? I don't know.
No, it's all the same thing. You got the
Okay.
yellow footprints. You do all that basic
They do a
stuff.
good job at like scaring the shit out of you before you go in, huh?
Oh, of course. They're always talking about how hard it's going to be, how bad it's going to be. The drill instructors are going to tear you apart. You're not ready for this. Da, 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 da. I was like, yeah, okay. I went in with a fucking mohawk,
Did you for
spiked
real?
up. I did.
Yeah,
I went in
that's
with a
Leclair.
mohawk. I had it spiked up with gel and everything.
Oh,
Went in
outstanding.
like that. So, they
What was
weren't.
the music of that time, dude? Were you a punk rocker?
No, no. I
No.
listen to everything just like I do now. I listen to
Yeah, gotcha.
everything. But
Gotcha.
I just figured, I had to have my head shaved anyways, so I shaved most of it before I left.
Took care of
Went in with
most
the
of it.
mohawk.
Nice.
Yeah, went in with the mohawk, and of course you catch some shit right off the bat for that one.
Yeah, I bet. I
And
bet.
Yeah, you
that kind
think,
of
bro?
what's that?
I said, yeah, you think?
You know,
Leclaire
uh,
has always been a, beat of his own drum type of
yeah,
individual, not
stir
giving a
the
fuck
pot as
about
much
Yeah,
that.
as I
no,
can.
he was one of the only motherfuckers where I was like, bro, could you just put your fucking shirt on? He
All
had
right.
like
Well,
this fucking goddamn surfer body and shit. And he's like, I don't need a t-shirt. I'm
Whoa,
like, put
whoa.
a fucking
Easy,
t-shirt on.
easy, Martin. It sounds like you're getting excited over there, man.
who
I
wouldn't?
am a
Who
little
wouldn't?
bit, dude.
Who wouldn't?
All right. So okay. So talk to us about boot camp a little bit, man.
Boot camp was what it was expected to be. You know what I mean? You go in there, you hate life for the most part, but I mean, it's rough, but it's one of it's one of those things you got to just make the best of it, like any situation. If you're, I guess they would say, if you're mentally weak minded, it's going to be super hard for you. If you're somebody that's, of sound mind and can just deal with the bullshit and brush it off, it's not that bad. It's tiring, but bro, if I could go back and be 18, 19 years old again and be in the shape that I was going
Oh,
into
tell me
boot
about it.
camp, man, and then coming out of boot camp would be
Yeah.
phenomenal. But now I'm old and beat up, and
No, I hear that.
I loved it, man. I had a blast with it. It was a good time. It was exactly what I expected it to be. Sleepless nights and getting shit talked all the time.
So
And
we always ask for just like one solid boot camp story, bro. There's always one or two that stick in your brain, man. Give us a good one.
this is true. This is true. So we had a kid. Okay. I think my favorite one, it was disgusting, but my favorite one, our fucking drill instructor had it out for this one kid for whatever the reason was. And we were on the range at the rifle range, and he tells this kid, he's like, I need you to sweep from this target to whatever number target it was, right? But he had him do it on his knees. And then when he got tired of doing that, yeah, with a dustpan and a little broom.
Yeah.
When he got tired of doing that, he told him, he's like, all right, good. He's like, now I want you to go clean all the shit out of the porta shitter. The kid went in, cleaned all the garbage and stuff like that out, thinking that's all he wanted done. He comes back to the drill instructor. The drill instructor's like, no, I said clean the shit out of the porta shitter. He took the rubber glove. He gave him a new pair of latex gloves, cut the fingers off all of them, and had the dude literally clean the shit out of the porta shitter with
No, there's something
no
about
glue.
like
What the
porter
fuck,
shitters
man?
in like the Marine Corps, dude, because they're like next level disgusting, bro.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh my
absolutely.
God.
And he was literally picking up shit with
Ugh,
latex
Yeah.
gloves that were cut off up to his fingers, up to the middle knuckle.
no good. No good.
Yeah. And you find all the bodily fluids in
Yeah.
those?
Yeah. Seriously.
He had a good time. That's definitely something I'll never forget. Or when they made a kid eat his own throw up.
Oh, yummy.
Yeah, the drill instructor picked it up out of the sand, looked at it like this, like, okay, dropped it, and then he goes to the kid. He's like, put it back where it came from, and made him eat it.
How nice of him.
Yeah, it was, he was trying to keep
Yeah.
everything clean.
Hey,
Yeah.
builds character, right?
Right.
Super nice.
So, but yeah, those are probably some of the most memorable ones I had.
All right. So where was our first stop after boot camp?
After I got out of boot camp, I got obviously, I was a military police, got sent down to Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. Did
Fun.
Yeah, did military police school and stuff like that down there. Got out of that and then went over to Camp Lejeune.
That's right. You were in Lejeune first.
Yeah, I was in Lejeune for my first duty station.
Who were you with first? What was
Division. So
Okay.
Division MP. I was with them down there, and then I attached to, I think it was at the time, I think it was like 1-6 Fox Battery or something like that, the Arty unit
Okay.
down there. I attached to them to go to Iraq.
So right when you got over there, they started, talking about a workup right away?
Yeah, pretty much. They were like, hey guys, we're not going out as, MPs as a whole. We're all kind of getting tasked out to different places. So they sent us all to different units and whatnot to deploy and, use some of the things that we knew over with those units. So
What was like the mission at that point, being an MP? Was it convoy security right off the bat, or were you
no,
doing?
on that one, we had convoy security, but when I went over to the Arty battery, they were basically going out there to run a bunch of the prisons.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So when I went out to Iraq, we did a lot of convoys and we did a lot of security for our convoys and stuff like that. But none of it wasn't our mission. Our mission was running the prison. Like my group, we got sent to Al Assad, which was one of the biggest prisons in Iraq outside of like Baghdad.
Yep.
So we were there. We were basically prison guards for, 7 months. And then, every time we had prisoner transfers or drop-offs or, we had guys going to Baghdad. We had guys that were getting released off their prison sentence and going back to, wherever they lived out there. We'd drop them off, do all that kind of stuff. And,
Any notable figures at your
we had a lot.
Yeah.
Had a lot. I know back in, what was it, 2006, time frame, they had the one of the real big guys that was he was basically like the main guy that was beheading like Americans and different people and stuff like
Oh
that.
shit.
He was like the main guy that was out there. We had him in our prison. So, and he got transferred up to Baghdad and whatnot. But yeah, there was a lot of them. We had a lot of
What was the mindset of prisoners? Like, were they shit? They must have been kind of comfortable, dude, from coming from the living conditions that they were used to,
yeah,
coming,
they weren't yeah.
living there.
Yeah, I
Shit,
mean, it wasn't terrible for them unless they,
they were naughty boys.
right, exactly. So, but for most of them, I mean, man, some of them were there for stupid things. Most of them were there for legitimate things. Some of them, like I said, were on their way. They were coming to us before they actually got sent back to their, hometowns or villages or whatever they want to call them. So some of them had great attitudes. Some of them were super friendly. Other ones, were rough.
You could tell right off the bat that they had more of the extremist mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause there's
Did
ones that get rolled up all the time and they were like, no, I didn't do anything. And they go through interrogations and stuff like that. And then if they're legit, they get released.
could
So,
did that stand out to you a lot? Like, I mean, Iraq, Afghanistan, because it stuck out to me, man. You could really see that, some of them were happy with us being there. Some of them, definitely wanted a regime change, and then the others were just
oh,
fire and
absolutely.
brimstone.
Absolutely. And that's kind of multiple things, you know what I mean? Like you got the guys that really wanted us to be there, weren't afraid to stand behind it. Other ones they were like, yeah, we don't want you here because we know that once you leave, we're screwed.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then you had the ones that were against you and didn't want you there for that reason.
I
So,
couldn't tell what that was, dude, because some of them you could tell they wanted that Western uh mentality about them because it was kind of like they're stuck. It's like they're stuck in the
stuck in the Stone
1900
Age.
early Stone Age, dude.
Right.
You know, they've been preached fire and brimstone Quran for so long. I mean, I can only imagine how that life must be.
Right. And
Like,
plus, you got to think about that too. Is a lot of those people that were in the smaller villages, Iraq or Afghanistan, a lot of them couldn't read, couldn't write, couldn't do anything like that. They weren't taught. So everything that they learned was passed down from whoever their main, what is it? What is the guy called? The sheik or
yep,
elder or whatever
yep,
they are.
elder, yep,
Yeah, they would pass all the beliefs down to these people, and whatever their belief was or they were being pressured into is what everybody else thought.
yep.
So because they didn't have any, they didn't know any better.
Okay, so I don't know. Would you say like a deployment like that kind of dragged a little bit compared to something like what we did because you were kind of stuck in a monotonous type of environment
Oh,
doing the same thing?
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's difficult in its own way, that type of deployment. Like, yeah, it dragged, but you deal with a lot of different shit. You know what I mean? Like, we were getting guys that were, it wasn't as much the combat aspect. It was more the extra stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we had guys that were so hopped up on opium all the time before they got there that when they finally got to us, now they're detoxing.
oh yeah, that's right.
And we're dealing with that. We had guys that,
Really? Oh, so you saw that at an early stage then? That
oh yeah,
that wasn't really prevalent in that time then. We didn't really know much about that, so you saw a
right.
lot of guys struggling with that.
Oh yeah, all the time. And then you'd get the ones that, that did come there for more of a reason and they were all messed up because of getting into a firefight with whichever, unit that pulled them in. Now you're dealing with that. You're sitting there dealing with, a dude that's been shot up, but he's still alive, but he's a prisoner. So we're
Gotcha.
like making sure that, gotta try and keep him alive.
Yeah,
Gotta be nice about it,
yeah,
this. But at the same time, you're kind of like, you know what, fuck this guy, I don't care.
yeah. No,
You
I hear
know,
you.
and then other times you get kids in there, man. We had kids in there that
Really?
were, oh yeah, and I'm talking like, I think the youngest one that when I was there that we had in the prison was probably about 8 years old.
What? And
Yeah,
what was now? What was this for? Were they just being used by someone?
throwing grenades and shit like that, laying
Really?
IEDs.
No shit. Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. So, you know, it was like I said, it was definitely I preferred Afghanistan for what we were doing compared to working in a prison.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, it was something neat, especially when you got to sit in on some of the interrogations and, see how they do things in that realm. It's a whole different ball game.
Who was interrogating guys?
We had het teams out there. So basically, like, we had every now and then we had guys from the CIA come through. We had actual just straight up like counter intel guys. We had a little bit of everybody, that was set up that would be like, hey, like, we need you guys in the prison. We need you guys to keep this guy awake. Like, don't let him sleep. So bother him, check on him every so often, make sure he stays awake. This way, when he gets to us, he's tired, he's wore out, he's more willing to talk because he just wants to go to bed. And we're not going to reward him until he starts doing something.
Yep.
So,
Gotcha. Okay. Now, did you see any of these guys like giving out any notable information after, an interrogation, or was it just kind of for nothing?
no, a lot of them gave out a lot of info that they wound up using to, go do whatever,
Operations with?
raids, operations, whatever you want to call it at that point in time. They wound up going and doing because of the information that they got from these guys. Like, you got to think, man, we were pulling between transferring because our prison was one of the bigger ones, but it wasn't meant to hold and keep people there. It was more of like it was the biggest in between prison, so we didn't hold
Gotcha.
long term. So we'd have guys come in, they'd stay until they got determined whether they were going to a big prison, or if they were going to be going back to their villages. So a lot
Gotcha.
of information went through that place.
Okay, so how long were you over there for that?
Probably like 7 months,
Okay.
7, 8 months, something like that.
What was it like coming home after something like that?
It wasn't that bad. I mean, that one wasn't terrible. It was.
I mean, did you go right from that? You went right home on leave?
What did I do after that? I think I went. Yeah, I probably did. I think I came home, went on leave, hung out. Normal shit.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what was it? I mean, it's always strange when you come home from a deployment because
it's always, yeah, absolutely. It's
you don't know
always
what you can tell your family, and I mean, as you said, your
right.
family wasn't really military, so what? I mean, they don't really know what to ask you. You know?
Right. And most of the time they tried to not ask me things, you know what I mean? Because there was a lot of stuff that happened on that deployment, but it just wasn't an all the time type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, we had things happen. We saw a lot of different things dealing with prisoners, going out to these different villages and not wanting to be, people not wanting to be there, or they'd send these prisoners to these villages and the people in the villages don't want the prisoners back.
Facts.
They are guilty and they're staying guilty.
Yeah.
So they got rid of them their own way, and you'd
Gotcha.
walk in on stuff like that. You'd see that kind of stuff. Like, so going home, I think after any type of real deployment, even if it's not a hugely combat geared one, you're always going to come back with a different view on things and you're always going to see things from a different light. So your normal day to day isn't the same as it once was.
You notice that just from going to Iraq, your purview kind of changed, or maybe
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think
100%.
traveling in general does that, huh? I mean,
I think so. And then, like I said, the more that you see somewhere and how it could be somewhere, how it is somewhere else, and how it could be,
yeah,
is a whole different type of
people are
eye-opener.
definitely sheltered.
Oh, 100%.
And I think honestly that would change a lot of views, man. Is just getting them to travel to see some of these third world countries, man, to see how it could be, man.
I agree.
Would change a lot of outlooks for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they don't understand that, a lot of these countries used to be flourishing countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they used to have good schools.
It's funny you say that, dude. So I actually just I think Doc sent it to me. Doc Dre sent it to me. He something about Hellman, dude.
Yeah.
Did you know Hellman was like popping before we got there,
it
like
used
back in
to
the
be
day?
like actual colleges, and
Yeah.
like the women weren't all robed
No,
up.
dude, no, it was like flourishing, bro.
Right.
They
That's
get
what I'm
Steel
saying. People
Mountain. I
don't,
forget.
in the United States, people don't realize how it could actually change.
Yeah.
Like, we have it really good in the United States. You know what I mean? And God forbid the wrong things happen, it could go to something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
they've never seen anything like that. They don't know. So of course they're sheltered.
When we say that we're fighting for that, dude, like it's because we've seen that we can know where it can go, and people don't understand that, man. They don't. They,
right.
I mean, that's why pay attention to your history, guys. See how these cultures have changed and how they've gone back and forth a few times, and it's very possible. That could happen.
That's why I always laugh at all these people out here that are always, oh, it can never happen here. It can never happen here. I'm like, you don't understand. You don't
No,
know.
no.
You've never seen it.
That's why I was laughing. So me and Zach were on a FaceTime or whatever before this, and yeah, he was showing me his gun safe and everything. I'm like, well, I'm coming to your fucking house.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, so tell me about the timeline of coming back from Iraq and when you got like the heads up that you're going to be going to Okinawa.
So I got back from Iraq in, what was it, 2008? I was there from like 2007 to 2008. And then came back. I was in Lejeune. We were actually doing workups to go to Afghanistan.
Okay.
So we were getting ready. We were doing all our workups, all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden I got orders.
Oh, you must have been pissed.
I was fucking furious.
Right? Yeah.
I was beyond mad. I did everything I could to get out of the orders to Okinawa because my whole unit was going to Afghanistan. And I was like, yo, like, I don't care about going to Okinawa. I have no problem going. Let me go on this deployment. When I come back, I'll take the orders. I'll re-enlist. I'll extend. I'll do whatever I got to do. And I'll go to Okinawa. And they weren't having it. You know how the monitors are.
Yep.
So they weren't having it. So I watched my whole unit leave in 2009 to go to Afghanistan. And I got
tough.
Behind. Yeah, that was shit. I got stuck behind, and then shortly after that, I think I got to Japan in like June or July or something like that of 2009.
Okay. Did you go over there dolo, or did you go with anyone that you knew?
Nope, I was there by myself.
Damn.
Yep.
All right. So before we get into MP Company, Doc, you have anything you got to ask him?
Well, not with the MP Company, but we have a couple of stories that I would like to bring up. We can wait for a little bit longer in this conversation.
All right.
The night we got hit hard. And,
yeah, we'll wait on that, dude. What was it like for you when you first got to MP Company, man? I know it's you kind of had a shitty outlook because you had to go to Okinawa
Right.
when everyone was deploying, but it must have been a cool situation being a young NCO coming to a new unit, knowing that you had a position where you were a young leader, bro. You were
Right.
going to be put in a position where you're going to be having a lot of guys under you, and you really had to fill some shoes.
It was very different because when I went over there, it was still division MPs.
Gotcha. Oh, really? Gotcha.
Yeah. So when I went there, it was still division. It was like, okay, you had your division, you had your air wing MPs, you had this group of MPs, and then you had your PMO guys, stuff like that. So when I went over there, it wasn't like a battalion of MPs. It was literally just like, hey, we had divisions in every major.
So it was kind of a shit show, honestly.
Right. It was very different. So when I went over there, I got there and I checked into the unit and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, where are,
This is Courtney or Hanson?
Yeah, this is when I was on Courtney. So they were like, all right, check in, do all your stuff. I checked in, did everything I was supposed to do. They're like, hey, you got a curfew here and this, and this. And I was like,
that sucks, huh?
Yeah.
That's the first.
Well, that was only in the beginning when I was checking in. So I got through the check-in process. They gave me my gold card because at that point in time, all NCOs got gold cards.
Gotcha.
So I was like, all right, perfect. I don't have a curfew. Good for me. But I got to the unit and I literally think there was division MPs had probably about 7 of us.
Really?
Yes. It was literally like just actually standing up there. And it was so small. Like,
do you remember who it was? Do you remember who it was that was there? What was it? Cisneros, you?
It was me. a guy, Sergeant Robertson. What was the other guy's name?
Was Gunny Cobb there?
Jorgensen. Gunny Cobb came, but he came, I think, slightly after I did.
Okay.
There, like I said, Gunny Cobb was there after a little bit. Stephen
Yep.
Matalovich was there after me.
Did you and Staff Sergeant Matt hit it off right away? You guys had a good relationship.
Oh yeah, me and him had a great relationship. At that point in time though, it was literally like whoever we had in the head shed, and then it was him when he finally got there.
Where did Matt come from?
I think he came from Cali.
I thought so too. I thought he might have been West
I thought
Coast.
he came out of Cali.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so he got there a good little bit after I did. And then it was like Poole and everybody else like that way later. But, all those guys came over to us. And so at the beginning, though, it was just Matt. After a little while, it was Matt, Staff Sergeant Robinson, or Sergeant Robinson, me, and another corporal. And then we had a whole bunch of like Lance corporals, PFCs and stuff like that after a little while. But everybody was super new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was no real. It was. I don't know. It was something like.
Talk to me about the mindset you had at that time. Because think about it, dude. Like you were the.
Oh, I was pissed.
Well, not only you being pissed, but you're the big dick at that point, dude. You're the NCO
Right,
that really needs to start fucking whipping people into shape, man. That's
right.
that's a big responsibility.
Right. And when I got there and we were dealing with everything, that's how it kind of had to be. You know what I mean? Like I had to take these guys because Okinawa is a different beast in its own. Like, you go to Lejeune, you go here, you go there, and it's one way because people can go wherever they want. Japan is so much smaller. Like if you don't know locals or you don't know people on different bases, where are you going?
Exactly.
Nowhere. You're spending your time in the barracks. You're spending your time with the guys that are in your unit. Everything is about you and your unit. That's because that's all you have. You know what I mean? So at that point, it was like, okay, well, let's get these guys in the right path because a lot of them had never done anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they did, it was all PMO time.
Yep.
Like a lot of them transferred from PMO straight to division MPs over by where we were at and whatnot. And they just were coming over like, okay, what do we do? So my whole thing was,
go ahead.
All right, well, there's only so much we can do for training because we haven't fully stood up yet. So it was like, hey, we're going to be in the gym a lot.
Definitely.
So my whole unit, I had, like I said, probably about 10 guys at that point in time, give or take. And we would go to the office. We'd do whatever we needed there, and then from there, it's like, all right, guys, let's get some type of training in. We'd do something, whether it was like, working on patrolling or simple shit with rifles.
Dissing
going
ass.
to the armory, dissing ass, different firearms, and then gym. That was it. That's all we did. So it was completely different. You get
sometimes I think that's better as a young Marine to get.
I agree 100%.
Especially if you're in a field unit, dude, because you're much more close knit with the people that you're going to be working with. You can't really go out in town and fuck off.
Right. I mean,
you really just focus on the bare minimum of training and getting in shape. And when you can just stay focused on that, dude, you really become a significant threat.
Right. And that's funny is because that's like I said, us being such a small unit at that point in time, all we did was train to make ourselves better. And we did shit. I think we would go to the gym for we'd go in the morning, we'd go PT, we'd go for a run, and then we might run to the gym, work out for about an hour or so. We could literally work out as long as we wanted to in the mornings because nobody was at the office.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Remember.
So they were just kind of like, well, all right, get in the gym. So we did that. And then, we do our other training. And then at the end of the day, we would go back to the gym. We would eat and then we'd go back to the gym because there was nothing else to do other than go to the E Club, hitch a ride up to Foster or something like that. Like it got to a point where everybody in that company was so like literally like just trained for, I don't know, I wouldn't say fighting necessarily, but like hitting the gym. Everyone was in shape, all this kind of shit. Like other companies, especially we'd go out to the bar every now and then or to the E Club or something like that. And, they'd want to run their mouths and
It wouldn't go good for him.
it wouldn't go. We would beat the shit out of them. It
I
was all the time. It was every weekend too,
know.
to the point where literally other, platoon sergeants and company guns and stuff like that from other units literally started putting in their safety briefs, stop fucking with the MPs. They are fucking you guys up every weekend. Like
That's
that was
funny.
part of their safety briefs.
So we just did Kilgores, and that's exactly what we were talking about, dude. Like
Right.
it literally was like
Yeah,
every
he knocked one dude out in the E Club, or it was one or two dudes. He
one
knocked
dude.
out. Yeah,
Few
but the
of them.
one night on Hanson, he laid out. I think it was what, two guys in the E Club, him and
Yep.
Pena.
No, that was me and him. Me and him. Don't get it twisted. It was me and him, and then Pena came in and kicked somebody in the head.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what it used to be. You know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
just get into fights.
So, did you have any? At what point did the staff NCOs come to you and were like, "Hey, listen, we got this Afghan thing." They clearly went to you, dude. And
right. Well, they went to me. They went to Matt. They were like, "Hey, we got this thing coming up. We want to start picking. You two are going to be the main ones going."
How is it that Matt didn't? How is it that you and Matt couldn't go together? Where was that? Where did that break down?
That's not how it started out. So when it started out, it was we were going to the same place originally. So we were like, all right, cool. And they were like, hey, we need to hand pick who you guys want. Because I'm trying to remember. Wasn't Matt a sergeant when he first came over there? He wasn't a staff. Yeah. No. So it was a sergeant. I was a corporal.
Yep.
And so they were like, hey, we need you guys to pick, the guys that you want to take with. I don't remember what the number was. I think it was what? 14?
It's like 10 or 13.
It was like 14. I think we each got like 7 guys. And they were like, hey, you two are going to be our main guys. Let's basically run it as 2 squads, set it up. So we handpicked everybody that we wanted to go, and it was originally, we were all supposed to be going to the same place as far as we knew. We had no clue until later on when we got down to 29 Palms.
That's what I thought. I thought it was when we got to CAX. It was just like, oh, by the way,
because you guys are attaching to 2-3, we got 2 different areas that we're going to. So you get your pick, you guys get your pick, And at that point, we got
so lucky. We got so lucky that we went the way we did.
But at that point in time was when Staff Sergeant Williams came into the picture. Remember, so once he came into the picture, he kind of trumped me, but he didn't know anybody. So he basically
when did he get there again? Did he get there like right after?
I think he met us at CAX.
Yeah.
Or right.
Well, I remember when we checked into CAX, dude, it was us and the 2-3 guys, and he wasn't there. Remember we did that awkward look at the guys, and they looked at us and like, oh great, we're with MPs, and we're like, oh great, we're with these guys.
Right. So I think he came in slightly around the time of us going to CAX, and then at that point, that's when they were like, all right, guys, listen, we're having 2 teams, and Staff Sergeant Williams picked me, and Matt was like, well, fuck, all right. Because I was like I don't know, they used me as some type of bartering chip. Matt wanted me, but Williams wanted me because I was the most knowledgeable and or
senior corporal. Yeah.
So at that point in time with the guys that we had going, so they were like, let me at least get him, and then he gave something to Matt about picking who he wanted or something like that. So,
when did you pick up sergeant?
Shit. Halfway through our deployment in
Afghanistan.
Was it? Yeah, man. Remember?
That's what I thought.
They put me up on 4 meritorious boards, and I lost 3 of them.
I wasn't sure if you were a sergeant at CAX or not.
No, I didn't get it. No, remember my warrant was written in crayon.
Yeah. All right. So, how would you say CAX went with these guys, dude?
I mean, it was different.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad, you know what I mean? It was good because that's where we got to meet and get to know a lot of these guys. That's where we met, good old fucking Donnerstag
Yep.
and Cervantes and all those guys. You know what I mean? So
You remember the
Dre,
first time? You remember the first time that you bumped into Donnerstag? You guys met?
first time. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I remember the first
It
time.
had to
First
be
time.
the first time we got to that Quonset hut at CAX, and they were all like chilling inside.
Yeah, probably.
So okay, so yeah, we just get to CAX, man. Do you remember like and me and you were we were really close at that point, dude, because I remember we got really close when you first approached me in Okinawa and were like, "Hey bud, you're coming with me. I'm dragging you with me and I need you to be, I need you to have my back." And
Right.
I took that really serious, man. And
Right. Because you were one of the guys that I really wanted with me. Because, like you said, we did get close in Okinawa. Don't get me wrong. My memory is fuzzy on a lot of Okinawa.
no, I like that you were real with me, but you also made sure that I respected the rank. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's something that I can really get behind, man, because we take this Marine Corps shit seriously, man. We bleed for this shit, and it's something that we all respect. And I respected that in you, and you always got my back, and that's something I wanted
Right.
to try to emulate with my younger Marines.
Right.
So
Well, that was one of the things that always kind of, it's a great thing, but it also bites you in the ass a lot
for sure,
from my side, anyways. You know what I mean? Because I haven't changed since I was in the Marine Corps. I was the same way before I went in the Marine Corps. To me, it's not about position. It's not about power. It's not about any of that shit. You know what I mean? It's all about legitimately. Fuck. How would I put it? I'm too honest for my own good a lot of times. Like
well,
I'm not the
what it
guy.
is, dude. You assume everyone is like you, and
I do.
you try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it comes and bites you in the ass a lot of times, dude.
Right. And I'll go to bat for the guys that I think are worth it, which, is what it is. It's a good thing because, because of that, I've gotten a lot of guys, I've had a lot of really good guys. You know what I mean? Because I'm always one that I'm willing to stand and fight that, like, a lot of higher ups will be like, yeah, I got your back, but then they get in that room and then they don't. You know,
Exactly.
that's never how I've been. I've always been very straight up about it. If I
Yep.
think you're fucking wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong.
Yep.
But if I think you're right, I don't care who I have to fight with about it. It is what it is. And I'm like I said, I'm too honest. Trust me, if you ask Donnerstag,
Oh,
he'll
sure.
tell you. He told me multiple times. He's like, look, man, he's like, you're too honest with shit. If I ask you something, you're gonna tell me exactly what it is, what time it is. He's like, and you don't care about anybody's feelings. And I told him, I was like, it's not that I don't care. I just don't look at things as a feelings type thing. I just tell you what the realistic facts are.
Yep.
And you're either going to take that or you're not, and he'd get upset with me sometimes because I'd tell him, I'm like, look, bro, like this is a stupid fucking decision, whatever. And he'd get butthurt with it. But then he would actually listen to what I'm saying and think about it because he knew I wasn't saying it to be an asshole. He knew I was saying it because it's really what I thought of either the situation or the question that he asked me. You know what I mean? So good and bad. It bit me in the ass a lot of times as well, but maybe that's why it took me 4 meritorious boards to get promoted. But
Well, what it does is
That might be it there, Mr.
it,
Leclair.
it makes yourself have a strong team, though.
right. And that's
Creating
something
a
we always had.
armada, if you will, of strong lance corporals around you. It shows that you're a very capable NCO.
Right.
And so yeah, we bang out CACs, man, and I think throughout that process we get very close with these individuals. I think they notice that we're not some shitbags.
Right.
We
I think
I
they
know
know
that they
that
go
about
into
shit
that
bag.
mentality because we're MPs. They think we're just like these PMO fags. But when they don't realize that we've been banging out range after range, dissing acid weapons, working out,
Right.
figuring out patrols, and taking this shit seriously. So when they saw that in us, I think we gained their respect a little bit, and we
Oh,
really came together
absolutely.
as a unit. And
I agree.
so okay, so we get through CAX and we go over to K Bay. Or wait, did we go
Yeah.
to K Bay? We went to
Yeah,
K
we
Bay
did. Yeah.
before. We went to CAX and then we went back to K Bay.
Yeah. We went to Cax, K Bay, and then we all went on. We were there for a little bit, and then we went on leave before we left.
And then went back to K Bay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So okay. Do you remember going home on leave, like just being kind of antsy that, because I remember getting word from a lot of people like we were going to be put in a real situation.
Right.
This wasn't a nor do you remember at CAX where they like, because I'm sure as officers they had to tell, their NCOs like, hey, listen, this is going to be a significant mission. This isn't something like a normal sit on a fob, do a couple missions, come
Right.
back and sleep.
Right. No,
We
it
were
wasn't
getting
like
embedded with these people, so it was
right.
different.
It was. I mean, you could tell that just by the training that we had to go through. We had to go through advisor training. We thought it was, and realistically going into that one, for the most part, we thought we were going to be teaching these guys what to do and then sending them out and letting them do shit while we hang out. That's what it seemed like
No.
going into it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It seemed like a whole lot of like, oh, okay, let's go on a patrol and walk around with these guys. And, if some shit pops off, it pops off. But that's what it seemed like. But by the time when we obviously, when we got there, it wasn't like that at all because they were ready to go. We were ready to go. And it just turned into like, look, we'll teach you what we can on the fly and we'll do it while we
Yeah.
go, but it's kind of more about now, like we said, when we got there, Route 606 hadn't been traveled. It was laid with IEDs. It was all that kind of stuff. So it turned into a whole different thing. And I don't think
Before you go that far, let's set the scene for our listeners here. So when we finally get to where we're gonna be staying in Afghanistan.
well, then let's backtrack on that. Because remember, when we got back off of leave, it was October. And they were like, hey, we need people for advanced party.
Oh, that's right.
So
That's right.
that's when me, Cervantes, and Donnerstag were like, okay, we're going to be the advanced party. We went out and got out there before you guys did. We went out to Jaker and Nawa area and stuff like that where Matt's team was staying.
Oh, so we thought we were gonna be there first.
Right. We were all under the impression that we were going to be living there. We were like, okay, but aren't we supposed to be two separate teams? And then there was a bunch of confusion of, yeah, you're going to be two separate teams, but you're all going to be in the same area. Then, we were there for about, I think it was like 4 days or something like that. And then they were like, hey, no, you guys get all your shit together. You guys are going down to Nimruz province. And they were like, so we were like, well, all right, where the hell is that? And they were just like, well, that's where you're going. So get ready. So that's when we wound up going down to, what was it? The district center over there.
Yep.
And me, Cervantes, and Donnerstag stayed over there for.
What was before you speed through that? What was in the air? What was what was the personality like? What were they talking about? What had been going on? What did you pick up from like just being
From
there? And
that
what did you see?
area? You're talking about from like the district center area?
Yeah.
So going down there, like before we had any knowledge that that's where we were going, we were kind of like, oh, this is going to suck. This is kind of a boring area in Nawa area, and then we got the word that we were going somewhere else. So they were like, hey, your guys' team, get ready. We're going to be going over here instead. And we're like, that's not even anywhere near where the rest of 2-3's at.
How far was it? Because I had never been to the Nawa.
It's a good bit. I mean,
Really?
It's you got to get flights.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. It wasn't like, hey, we could just take the trucks over there.
Yeah.
Not on a. It was further than when we went to. I don't even remember what that base
Herat.
was.
Herat.
Yeah, Herat. It was further than that.
And that was a trip.
Yeah, that was a good.
That was a
trip.
day. That was a day trip.
Right. So, and it was definitely further than that because I know we had to take. Did we take? I think we took Ospreys or something like that from where we were going to go over, or either a C-130 than Osprey or something like that. I don't know, but it was a good little trip. It definitely wasn't something where we were going to be linking up with these guys.
Just from doing that, advanced party with Donnerstag, did you really start seeing that this was, a leader that you were going to be able to work for?
Yeah, I thought so, because when we got out there,
work with,
we started when we got out there, we were trying to keep ourselves busy. We were going on patrols with this, the guys out of the district center and stuff like that, all that kind of shit. So we're keeping ourselves busy. We're going to the gym, he's able to joke and have a good time with us, and he wasn't looking down on us in some manner of like,
Bam, right there. That's a big thing.
that's a huge thing.
Explain that.
Huge
Explain that a
thing.
little bit, Leclair, because you could get the officer that's kind of like,
right. He won't joke. He won't commingle. He won't do anything. He's just strictly, I'm an officer. You guys
doesn't humble himself to be a human with you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And Donnerstag didn't have that problem. You know what I mean? Like he was serious when serious needed to be, but he also knew that he was smart enough to be like, look, I have to put faith in these guys just like they have to put faith in me, and they have to be able to trust me just like I have to be able to trust them.
Yep.
You know, so we went out on patrols, and I got a story about a patrol we went on. So we go out on this patrol one day with these guys from this little district center base that they were living at, and they had it same thing like we did, where it was mixed with the Afghan police and stuff like that. So we're living there, right? They're like, hey guys, we're gonna go on this night patrol, whatever. Get your stuff. We're leaving at this time. So we're like, all right, cool. So it's me, Donnerstag, and Cervantes, and we get ready. We go out on a patrol and whatnot, walking around, doing our normal shit. Nothing crazy happens, but we're on this patrol, and everything, you're looking through your MVGs and whatnot, everything's just fucking black. You look into these little buildings, and it's just black. And they're like, hey, before they went out, they were like, watch out for dogs and this, that, and the other. So I'm sitting there, man. I'm like, all right, whatever. We're going, we're doing our patrol. All of a sudden, this big ass fucking dog comes out from one of the little huts, and it's fucking growling at me. And I was like, oh no.
Just so everybody knows, the dogs that are in Afghanistan aren't normal dogs.
They're like werewolves, man.
Wolves.
They're fucking huge.
So the dog definitely outweighed me at that point in time. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, shit, this dog's gonna come after me. And I was not ready for it. So I literally I pulled out my pepper spray, I shake it up, I sprayed the fuck out of this dog. It ran off. I was like, thank God. All right, continued the patrol. You know, the only other exciting thing that happened to us on that patrol was we got to shine a green beam dazzler at some guy in a fucking semi or one of those.
Oh, big I wish I stole one of those, dude. I love those things.
Yeah, but you know, whatever, because he wasn't slowing down. He almost got shot, but he didn't. So now we get back to the base. You know, after our patrol, we did probably a 3-4 hour patrol, and that dog had happened probably about the last 30 minutes. So I put my, pepper spray back in my drop pouch. We get back to the base, all that kind of stuff. And I literally I take the pepper spray out of my drop pouch. I set it up where I'm staying for the night and stuff like that with all my gear and whatnot. I didn't realize that I had gotten pepper spray on my hands, man. I had gotten pepper spray on my hands. I didn't realize it at the end of the patrol. You know, when we got back, I put it out, got it all over my hands, didn't know it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a piss.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a piss. And I go and I'm doing my thing. I piss through this piss tube and all this shit. Next thing you know, I get in bed. I'm laying down. Everything's chill. And then all of a sudden, everything starts to burn. And it was awful. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm sitting there in bed. I'm like, God damn it, this is getting uncomfortable.
Oh, I got the Afghan clap.
Next thing I'm fucking freaking out because my dick's on fire from this fucking pepper spray. And I ran out of the little tent that we were sleeping in. I'm literally, I didn't care who was around, man. I'm like pants down, just dumping water.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Stuff like that. I didn't give a shit. People are walking by. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, pepper spray on my hands, and I peed. And they're like, hey, do what you're doing. Clean it up. So, that patrol went real well. That was a good time.
So are you starting to have conversations between you, Donnerstag, and Cervantes of how you're going to handle the crew? Like how you guys are going to start,
Yeah, at that point, we started figuring out, okay, look, we know that this base that we're at is kind of a backup, like a fallback backup area to where we're going to be at. Because we knew
you're talking about the one that's like in the middle of Delaram proper, right? In the bazaar area?
Yeah. That was called the district center. Yeah. So they were, I don't remember what their team name was called or whatever, but they were all there. So we started figuring out, okay, this is going to be, our fallback area. This is going to be between us and the main base.
Was it Warhawk?
Yeah. That's what it was. Warhawk. So that we knew that was a middle spot between us. It was us, them, and then what was it, Delaram or whatever it was.
Yep.
Main
Yeah,
base out there.
Delaram.
Yeah, so we started talking about that, and then finally we got to go on like a patrol out to where we were staying at, which originally was supposed to be like for the Afghan like FBI.
Yeah. NDS or
Yeah, something like that. Whatever it was, their equivalent to the FBI or whatever else. So at that point in time, we started, okay, this is where we're going to be staying and this, that, and the other. And then there was some issues with that because the Afghans were like, no, this is going to be for this. And I don't know what the deal was made out to be that we were still going to stay there. I don't know if it was just like, hey, we're moving in and nobody's going to say anything or what it was. But we wound up moving into there when you guys got down there, because we couldn't go there by ourselves and stay.
Yep.
But yeah, so we started figuring out like, okay, well, we're going to have to do this. And then when, okay, we know that, I don't remember if we knew that 606 was as bad as it was before we got out there or when you guys got there. And then we kind of started talking to other people and they're like, yeah, nobody's been down this road American wise in ever.
Long time.
Right. Cause it was the Georgians and what was the other one? Georgians and I don't remember what that unit is that does like the spotting and stuff like that for artillery and whatnot. I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
Anglico.
Anglico.
Yep.
Georgians and Anglico were way down on the other end of 606. So they were like, but nobody's gone in between there in forever. So that was a whole different problem in itself.
All right. So the boys get there. We move into the compound. Kind of a shaky feeling, man. I remember getting there and we keep in mind we're in the middle of these intersecting highways, and
we had the Afghan army next to us.
We are clearly living outside the wire. Like this is not a normal deployment for sure, and you can tell that right off the bat, man. It was definitely a shaky area to be in, dude.
It was, and we had a nice compound.
Oh, for sure.
Outside of that, outside of that though, you knew it was a bad area. Even if you just talking to a lot of people in that area in general, they were always talking about how
heavy Taliban presence,
Taliban presence, the poppy fields, the IEDs out of that area, all that kind of shit. So you knew that it was going to be something.
Yep.
Especially with all the poppy.
It can't not be. I mean, that's a heavy thing for the Taliban to get their their weapons into the area. So, talk to us a little bit about when we start picking up patrolling and
so
maybe going into some of the significant things that happened to us.
Well, I know our first thing once we finally got settled out there, our first thing was, okay, we got to get 606 cleared between us and the Georgian base. So that was our first thing. You know what I mean? We started running. I remember when we started that one. So we decided what we were going to do was we had the engineers come out, and we basically wouldn't allow anybody down that road at that point in time. So they had that first day. I don't remember who, because we still, when we first got out there, we didn't have set trucks like we wound up later on, set drivers, set gunners. We didn't have all that stuff in the beginning. You know what I mean? It was kind of just shift around.
Pile into the trucks,
Right. Get in the truck and let's go.
Yeah.
So it just was what it was. So I remember sitting there, though, and they were like, all right, guys, we got to do this clearance, this route clearance, and all this kind of shit. We can't be letting the civilian population be driving down the road while we're doing this. So, we got 2 trucks back here. And then what was it? 2 trucks with the route clearance.
Yep.
And I remember one of the days, I think it was one of the first days when we started this thing, they had me and another truck in the back basically not letting anybody down the road. And that was eerie in itself because people are getting pissed off. They're wanting to try and come down the road anyways.
Long ass lines of traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a line because there was just no option to go down. The road was closed.
Yeah.
So, at that point in time, we're trying to use pin flares and stuff like that just to like when people would try to like come hauling ass over, pop a pin flare, let them know, hey, we're not playing, like you can't go down there. And then next thing you know, they just started using not the road.
Yeah, they go off the road.
I'm going to drive through the desert. So, that's kind of, and that was a rough situation because these people don't care.
No.
They're used to it. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit. So they weren't very happy at that point in time. I remember, what was it? I don't remember if it was then or later on when Johnston used the pop-up flare. He got yelled at for that one.
Yeah, it definitely was a shaky feeling stopping these. Mainly it would be when we found IEDs. We would we'd roll up on an IED and we'd have to stop traffic from both sides. And it would just...
How many was it that we found just in the route clearance alone?
It was over 30.
And that was just the route clearance.
And keep in mind, really, I need everyone that I interview from our team to just really articulate how awesome Donnerstag was at finding these things because
it was fucking unreal. He had a sixth sense for this shit.
And I remember me and you, dude. It was one of these rare times that I was a dismount, but me and you were down Route 1, and this was when me and you walked over that daisy chain IED. And
you're talking about when we were coming back from Herat.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, that was way further down.
No, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just articulate how hard it is to even see these things.
Right. I mean, you were in your truck, had the door open, and I was standing on, what did they say? It was like a 300-pound IED that was daisy chained to like 3 other ones.
Yeah.
And I was standing on the pressure plate for one of them, but it was made for
a truck. Yeah.
So it didn't go off with me,
What I'm trying to do is just
God.
I'm trying to show how hard it is. Because Donnerstag would find these things with us driving, bro.
You remember that time we were rolling down the road and he thought he saw a glimpse of something in the sand running along to that building, and he jumped out of the truck while it was still moving.
Yeah, I do.
He literally jumped out of the truck while it was moving, and he found a single piece of thread copper wire running to a compound. He jumped out, and I'm pretty sure he snipped the wire.
Yeah, he did. He snipped it.
Yeah, he snipped the wire, and then we saw the motorcycle taken off from that little building.
Yeah. I think that's when Velasquez freezed up and didn't take him out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, that's something I want to talk about too, man. I mean, you see often guys cannot pull that trigger when they get to the point. I mean, do you talk about that a little bit, man? Is that something that, is just in the person, or do you think that they're just not, trained up to do that? Because we saw that a few times.
I don't know. I think it's like anything else, man. Everybody has that fight or flight. You know what I mean? Everybody has that fight or flight. You can never say what you're going to do until you're in the situation. Luckily for me, I had ran into that situation and I knew that before from Iraq. I knew I could do it if I had to. So that wasn't something I was concerned with in myself. But individuals, like I said, it is what it is. You can't blame somebody. You can't.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. It pisses you off when you're out there and it doesn't happen, but it should. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things. Like, I think it's just. I don't think it has anything to do with the training.
I'm not trying to do that like typical you're not a tough guy if you do that. I'm just trying what I'm trying to say is it's not something you can really plan for.
No, it's not. And you don't know how you're going to react to it until the time comes, and you know what, you might do it one time and not the next time. You know what I mean? It might have just caught you off guard that much that first time and you weren't ready for it.
But it does piss you off in the moment because ultimately it could cause us all to die.
Right, it could, absolutely, but that's kind of how it works on deployment. You know what I mean? You get in one shitty situation, like I'm not gonna throw too many names out, but you get put in a shitty situation where we're stopped in a convoy or a patrol in the trucks, and they start dropping mortars,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
they're
yeah.
bracketing you, and my
Yeah.
truck's sitting in the middle. One hits here, next one's hitting here.
Let's
and
find out where it's coming from.
Right, and you see what I'm saying? And you're like, nah, let's move this
Yeah,
truck.
yeah.
You move the truck, and then the mortar drops basically where you were sitting. Like,
I forgot about that, dude.
Oh, I did not. I did not, because I was sitting in that truck.
Yeah.
But either way, those are things that happen. And there's no way to. When shitty things happen, you don't know how you're going to react, so you can't really blame anybody. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of. It's the bigger part to it is once it happens and now your brain has realized that this is a real thing and this stuff is going to happen and it can happen and it's going to happen. It's one of those things you're just going to have to, your brain has to it has to click.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is. And now, as long as you learn from that and you move on and you start doing the right stuff after that, you just, hopefully that first situation wasn't a bad one that got
No,
you
I think you put it
somewhere.
perfectly. Really, you just gotta learn from it, and you gotta
Right.
you gotta learn when to react and what to do. It's really gonna be something that you wake up in yourself, and you gotta make that decision to either push out of the kill zone or pull that trigger.
Right.
Doc, you got something?
Yeah. Yeah. No, so the night we took that hard hit, when it was Dan and all them, and Cervantes and all that. I just remember because I got out.
Doc, you gotta explain this shit because not everybody knows that's listening what you're talking about. So
Well, let's not go too hard into that one though, because
Yeah.
that's going to come down a little bit further.
yeah. So we're still in like the beginning here, bud. So
Well,
if
sorry,
we
man.
if we could, out of the three of us, try to bring up a couple of the significant things that happened in the beginning when we were just figuring out,
Well,
our teams, our trucks.
When did you get out there? You got out there.
I got
End of
out there-
October. Are you talking Doc?
Not you.
Gotcha.
Martin.
Fuck. February of 11.
Okay.
Yeah, because you got into it about halfway through, a little bit before halfway point of our deployment.
Yeah. Yep.
We were running with one corpsman for
Yeah, it was
basically
then.
2 sets of patrols, because our first corpsman, he was an IED magnet, and prior deployments he'd gotten blown up so many times and he still had shrapnel in him and they wouldn't get him to come out. So we
it started
going out with
third
one-
spacing
one
and shit
corpsman.
on his arm.
Yeah. So we wound up going to Afghan with only one corpsman, and I'll give it to Dre.
he held it down.
He did. He didn't have a choice.
Fuck yeah, he did.
He was the only corpsman we had at that point in time. So if we were doing, because remember when we were doing the route clearance in the beginning, it was one set of guys would run back and forth down the road, back and forth, making sure that nothing was laid while we were clearing this.
Yep.
So wherever, the route clearance stopped for the day, we had a convoy, or not convoy, but a patrol that was going back and forth between the start.
So we couldn't get backlayed.
Right. So we couldn't get backlayed. And every day it got further and further and further down this route. So we were running patrols 24 hours, and Dre held it, man. He was doing his thing. He was on pretty much every patrol.
Well, what you got to remember though is, aside from RCP, from route clearance, we would normally do a morning patrol and then a late afternoon patrol, and then we'd also stand watch at night.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really just like a
team. With a 21-man team, we were running drone drive patrols.
It fucking pisses me off because I bring that up that no, dude, there was 21 of us, and they're like, there's no fucking way. I'm like, there was 21 of us. And that's what we.
I remember because we hit the way we instituted at first didn't work because we were just too tired.
Right, they were running us ragged based off of going between patrol after patrol, because in the beginning that's what they wanted. They wanted one crew running back and forth, pretty much during the day. And then the next crew would pick it up at a certain time at night, and we were running back and forth. And that's how they wanted it. But it was with as little amount of guys as we had, it wasn't feasible. So that's why we did get back late a couple times.
Gotcha.
Because of the fact that we had to start doing, like you said, where we were doing a morning patrol, an evening patrol, standing watch, and then, doing it all that way. It was too much.
So I don't know if you guys recall this, Doc. I don't know if you were here for this yet, but this was in the beginning of the deployment. And this was really the first time we had gotten any contact. And it was down Route 1. And what it was I think we identified Taliban moving around at a compound. We saw a couple of the white srirachas. And we got off of the main road and we started to go straight at this compound. And they actually shot an RPG at us.
Yep.
And I can't really remember who was at what truck or who was, with us at the point. I know Leclair was there, but that the first time we got any contact was very, very surreal. It was like a slow-mo. Honestly, the first time I got an RPG shot at me was terrifying because I don't know if you've ever had an RPG shot at you. It is not predictable or accurate. It is, yeah, it's like a knuckleball.
Right, and that's no different than like when before you guys got there, when we did that first patrol or not first patrol, but one of the first patrols with the guys out of the district center. We went out on this little patrol, not a night one, it was a regular daytime one. We're walking through the district center and everything seemed super quiet, which was weird for that area.
Yeah.
And we look over and there's a garage, one of those little garage doors for the store fronts opened up with a motorcycle in there. And we're like, that's weird. Mm-hmm. Luckily though, we were walking around with those the jammer packs.
Oh, yep.
So we had those on. We had two of them out there with us, and they were jamming up the signal because this motorcycle in the tank was packed with explosives, and then they had a cell phone rigged to it on the side. And that was the first time I had dealt with an IED. So I'm standing there looking at it, trying to figure this shit out and seeing what they're kind of doing, and I remember sitting there, I'm like, this is just a small one. It ain't going to do shit, and next thing you know, we're sitting there and the EOD had came out and they're doing their thing with it. And I'm stacked up behind like this, like Pesco barrier wall type thing. And all of a sudden EOD blows it. And I didn't realize how close I actually was to it. And it literally knocked me over about 3 feet from the blast of it. Because everything was directed out of the garage door. And I didn't realize that's when my eyes opened to what that really was. You know what I mean? The fact that I was as far away as I was, which I mean, realistically was probably like 25, maybe 30 yards away, if that, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is going to be cool. And then boom, and all the blast comes right out of it. And it still knocks you over. And I was like, damn, that's some real shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my first real eye opener to what it's like.
One of the few first concussions.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So, what are some other times that stick out in you? I mean, we also had that time when we ran down that drug transport.
Dude, that fucking Tarango got a shot off.
Yeah.
So that night or that day, so Xavier was in the vehicle with me, and we hit that car. Because Staff Sergeant Barger was driving, he was driving like a fucking maniac. But we basically a pit maneuver on that car. And those guys, one of the guys flew out of the car and he came around and me and Xavier jumped out. Xavier has the saw and he just muzzle thumped this dude right in the fucking chest. I was like, that motherfucker does not know how lucky he is. That's all it took. Muzzle thumped in, we tied him up, and then we got, what was it,
130 something kilos.
Do you remember all the guys back at the compound when that happened? They just grabbing bricks and leaving.
Yeah.
And there's nothing we could do about it. We're well, fuck, I guess.
This is one of the things that I'm talking about. How dangerous of situations we were in.
Right.
Because
We were a lot of our busts were what 100 plus, almost 200 kilos of heroin.
this is what I'm talking about.
You know what I mean?
Because I'm sure someone made a call that was like, listen, them boys just got wrapped up and all the drugs got taken.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure someone got that call and was like, all right, saddle up, let's go get them. We could have easily, been in some real serious situations. I don't know. We got out of a lot of situations by the skin of our dicks for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Or that one place we hit, and there was just a bunch of fucking, and it was still green, but just a bunch of fucking weed. And we're all sitting there looking at each other like, and I've just never really liked weed. I mean,
what was that, like a farm? It was just like a farm with a shit ton of weed in it, right? Yeah.
And so we just torched it, and we're all of us sitting there looking at each other like, damn it, stand closer to the fire, you'll get a little.
All right. So at this point we're getting comfortable in trucks, and we're figuring out like who's in what team, and really getting comfortable in the patrol spectrum of what we're going to be running on a daily, aspect. At that point, I think we're starting to set up patrol bases and leave teams at these patrol bases for, week or two at a time. Right. That was actually some of the most fun I'd had on the deployment, man. And I remember Leclair, you were on a few of them with me. Talk about that a little bit. How did you like doing that, man?
That was probably the best part.
It was.
Because you never knew what was going to happen. You never knew if you were going to get shot at. You never knew. They knew that we were only out there with one truck, maybe 7 or 8 Afghans, and 4, maybe tops 5 of us.
Yeah.
So they all knew that. You know what I mean? So, man, I had a blast though. I love those times. Those were, you go out, you hung out. You got to hang out with the couple of guys that went out on the, to the patrol base with you, go out on some random patrols with the Afghans and stuff like that. And
a lot of responsibility on a young group of guys.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I loved it though. That was like I said, I think that was some of the best parts of the deployment, was staying out at those little patrol bases. I remember one night, I can't remember between all the different ones that I went out on, who it was that was with me, but I remember one night we're sitting there and it was me and somebody else, because we were doing like shifts. So it was me and another guy, and we had the 240, we had the 50 on the truck, and we had the Mark 32 in the back of the truck.
Nice.
So
loaded for bear.
One night we're sitting there and we had a checkpoint set up outside, and not outside, but out of
on the road.
On the road, yeah. So we had a checkpoint set up, and fucking all of a sudden this motorcycle comes hauling ass at us, and I had the Mark 32, right? And it's all flares.
You're like, fuck.
Oh, I remember you got in trouble for this.
It was, huh?
You got in trouble for this. I remember this.
No, I didn't. Nobody found out about it.
Oh.
Nobody found out about it.
Until now.
Yeah, until now. So we're out there, and fucking this motorcycle's hauling ass at us. I can't for the life of me remember who was out there with me that night. And I'm standing there and it won't slow down. So I shot a flare to the right. I shot a flare to the left. This dude's not slowing down. So I shoot another flare, and it hit this guy on the motorcycle square in the chest.
Nice.
Knocked him off the motorcycle. I was like, shit, I just killed this dude with a flare. I was like, this is going to go over terribly. And so I was just like, shit, I'm just standing there. I'm like, well, it is what it is at this point. I was like, I'm not going out there to get him. I'm going to just leave him where he's at.
Yep.
And next thing you know, about 40 minutes later, I see him like stumbling up. I'm like, he's not dead.
Doing the zombie.
I was like, good Lord, this dude is not dead. I was like so shocked that he wasn't dead. And then he picks up the motorcycle and he turns it around and starts walking in the opposite direction with it. I was like, perfect. Good day.
Yeah. They're like when me and Nick went out on the one, like I cannot remember the damn name either. But it was me, Nick, Tarango, and was it Kyle? It was Line Weaver, wasn't it? I think so. But so me and Nick, we were like, we'll take the night shift. And so we're just sitting in the front of the MRAP, just, watching shit and just kept punching each other. Like, hey, wake up. Hey, wake up. So, the other guys would sleep and then we'd try to sleep during the day, but it was hotter than fuck.
Right.
So at this point, I think okay, so we're balls deep in a deployment at this point. Taliban showed their head a few times. We're starting to really see what we're up against. And yeah, that night comes on, man. We get that we get mortared and we go QRF out to I believe it was down Route 1 and we get some significant contact, bro. Let's talk about that.
So that was
Hi.
So that was the night that okay, so we're rolling down Route 1. We were getting shot at. They took it off road.
Yeah, we see the light the tracers, illuminate the night, bro. So we knew we were getting into it, bro.
Right. So we're rolling and everybody's hauling ass, obviously. Most of us are running around in, boots,
Boxers, boots, and
shorts and like a tank top and your flak and whatnot, grabbing guns and just going. And so we're rolling and we started taking contact from our left side, so we all rolled off road and we started going and whatnot. And then there was 2 cars originally, I believe. One broke off one way, and that's the way that your truck went. And we were following. And then another car broke off or something, and another truck went kind of that direction. I was in the MRAP. So, of course, I'm in the fucking heaviest truck there was. And, that's at the point where we're all getting shot at by the guys in the car.
That really showed me how hard it is to engage someone going off road and going like through wadis and shit like that, dude.
Right. So I remember, that's happening. All of a sudden we start taking fire from a couple of little, like they basically had us in like a horseshoe almost.
Bro, they definitely had shooters in compounds all around that area.
And that's what I'm saying, because right where, so we're rolling, you guys are chasing that truck, we're following behind, we're doing the same shit, and all of a sudden, the MRAP hits, and it just
that's right.
Stop.
Who was driving? Was it Cisneros or Bishop?
Cisneros.
Oh, I think it was Cisneros.
I think it was Cisneros that night. So in my truck, anyways, was it? I don't remember if it was Cisneros or Bishop. No. Cisneros was driving. I believe Bishop was in my gun.
Oh, okay.
So we jump out and immediately we're taking shots at us from a vehicle or whatever that was at one of the compounds. So we returned a couple shots and then we got told quit firing because we don't know what's over there.
Yeah.
So we had to stop and just basically hunker down. So it's me and I believe it was Dre that was in my truck with me. And we're sitting there, we're trying to get the truck unstuck, but we're getting shot at. So we couldn't get the truck unstuck because we were trying to wedge things under the tire to gain traction.
Yeah.
And, get back going. But we couldn't do it because we were getting shot at. So we're laying there and there was like a small like berm of sand, right? And I remember I'm sitting there, my head's barely, under the
covered.
berm.
Yeah.
And barely covered. And I'm sitting there just crouched up like this. And there's rounds hitting in between our legs and at the truck and stuff like that. And you guys, I could still hear the gunshots from you guys because the 50 was going off for a minute, which was you in the gun. And then after that, we were just kind of separated and on our own. And we were taking shots from our left and our right because we were stuck in that horseshoe where you guys kept pushing after that one truck and did what you guys did with that truck or with that car or whatever. But yeah, we were stuck there for a good minute by ourselves. And, after the first couple shots, we were told, hey, don't fire. We don't know who's
Yeah.
in those compounds outside of the guys that are
Dumb.
shooting at us.
Fuck
So
'em.
we were just kind of stuck, laid out there.
Shows you how easily you could get separated from your column and just get stuck in a shitty situation, man.
Oh, we got stuck in a real shitty situation
Yeah.
that night. Had luckily, obviously, our gun was still up. I think we had the 240 that night. Our gun was up. Everything was good, other than the fact that we were stuck sitting there,
Yep.
not able to go anywhere. We were in a shit position, just being stuck there. But otherwise,
No one died.
was what it was. I just remember I'm pretty sure it was me and Dre. We were both just sitting there, round snapping between our feet and stuff like that, and we're both just dying laughing because there's literally what else could we do at that point? There was literally nothing we could do except for sit there. We were sitting ducks at that point in time.
It's funny how like a situation like that, your adrenaline's so amped that when you get back to like the compound, everyone's quiet, and then one person will say something, and it's like, whoa.
Right. But it blew my mind too, man, because the way these rules of engagement are out there,
Yeah.
you're getting shot at, and they're like, "Hey, stop!"
So
return
stacked
fire.
against you, dude. It's like
Right, everything's stacked against you. Everything is stacked against you. You shoot a spotter, you're going to go to jail. You do this, you're going to go to jail. You know what I mean? It's unreal. They have the better odds in that fight.
who is the person that actually makes these ROE, rules? Because I guarantee you they have not stepped foot on a battlefield, man. Because you can't.
Most of them were the guys that in charge of the RCT teams and stuff like that. The guys over at the main guys at Delaram, and then higher from there. The guys that don't leave, the guys that when we came back after that suicide bomber or after the bus shooting and stuff like that, when I had blood all over my camis and got yelled at by a first sergeant because my camis looked like shit.
God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those are the guys that are making these rules that, you remember you got the shit end of that deal. I forgot about that one, Nick.
What?
When so you weren't out there, you weren't out on that patrol that day, I don't believe, where the suicide bomber blew himself up, and we went out and did the whole scene and stuff like that, and we had to basically pick this guy's body parts up and put it in a sack. So we did, and we buried it back. We put it in the sack, and then we buried the guy, and then we were leaving. And the main base called us up and said, "Look, we need a DNA sample."
Of course, I remember this, dude. I had to go pick the fucking shit up.
No. Listen. So there's more to it before that. So I was mad as fuck because for whatever reason, I was always the guy that they were like, "Yo, this is the shitty job. You can stomach it. Go deal with it." So they were like, "Go get this, DNA sample." And I was telling, I think it was Donnerstag, I was telling him, I'm like, I'm going to just take this dude's head off his body and I'm going to bring it back to him. And he said, no, you couldn't do that. But half of his face was peeled off from here to here. So I cut it off and I put it in a bag. And I put the face
in a fucking MRE bag.
Yes, the little Ziploc bag. Dude. So we brought half the face back to these guys on the main base. And we dropped it on their desk, and the dude was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "That's your DNA sample." They're like, "Yeah, but what is it?" I was like, "Bro, if you look at it, you'll see like there's an eyeball, like there's an eye socket area, there's a part of his nose, there's part of his mouth, and all that stuff." And the dude like turned green, like
fucking just ghost white, like ghost white.
Right.
Went from ghost white to green, that.
And then they were pissed off about that. But I was like, yo, you guys made us go. Because when we went back out there to dig the body up, it was already dug up because the dogs had dug it up and they were eating the body.
I remember.
Like, you want to talk about there was a thing, what was it? That you see on there was some guy put it up online and whatever. He goes, you're in hell when you start seeing dogs carrying around human body parts.
Yep.
for you to go back, you to tell us to go back out there and have to revisit
Yeah,
that.
seriously.
To now see like literally like dogs just sitting there tearing this shit apart and pulling on it and taking him and pulling him out of the sack and stuff like that. Like it's a different level of bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
So we did that, you know, and then they got pissed off. And then when we went back to our base, you were there and I was like, hey, Nick, go get rid of this. And you're like, what is that? And you're like, I'm like, oh, it's half a dude's face. And then you had to go bury it.
They want to ask us how we've been desensitized to things. Well, right there.
Yeah. So
that's like that bus shooting one, man, where the dudes got hit in the face and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they wanted a
fucking...
retina scan, so I had to poke his eyes out through the back of his head. Like, come on, that's not normal shit.
Yeah, dude. I'm like looking, they're like, well, we're gonna need DNA, and I'm like, there's a fucking, because the one dude got his fucking arm basically from here,
right,
broke the fuck off, and it's laying there, and I'm like, well, I guess we can get fingerprints, maybe.
Right, but they didn't want that. They wanted retina scans. They wanted like the shit that was impossible to get without having to do some really stupid shit. Was what they wanted.
Yeah,
Retina is the most accurate. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of the shittier ones were the ones that, remember the guys that got blown to hell from the fuel carriers that got
That's
incinerated?
the one where the dude burned alive while we were there.
There's literally nothing left.
But you remember the one that the carrier got hit, the fuel truck got hit, and that we got there right before it like the cabin caught on fire and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we were trying
just
to
like the skin melted to the seat.
Yeah, the skin was melted to the seat, and there was it was awful. But,
all right, so we start getting
that one too. There was that one too where like it was on fire and like the Afghans, they were like, hey, we'll just shoot an RPG at it. And
that's the
like,
one where they were going to let me shoot the RPG. They were going to let me shoot the RPG, but fucking Donnerstag told me no. I had it ready. I had the RPG. I was going to shoot it and everything.
A good idea, bro.
I know. Donnerstag shit on that one for me.
All right, so
one chance.
We start getting salty. We start digging in a little bit. And I kind of think that after that that kind of significant firefight we got into, we kind of had a crosshair on my back or our back, because I definitely know I smoked at least 1 to 2 guys in the back of one of those srirachas. So I think
you definitely did. Bro.
Not only at that point did they know we were a threat in the area, but we were breaking up them shipping drugs out too, dude. So
right, we were running into that problem all the time.
So we were disrupting the Taliban chain, and they didn't want us any. Obviously, we were fucking up the money, and
we were running over their poppy fields.
Yeah. So
allegedly,
that's when I think that that kind of set up that day, unfortunately. Because we took let's talk about it, guys. We took a huge hit to our team.
Well, that day.
Yeah.
So that was the day that they were like, hey, we're going to go out to this compound. We're going to go have a sit down with, their elders and stuff like that. And they're like, you guys need to provide security while Donnerstag and I don't remember which one of the staff sergeants that went with us.
Stone and Williams.
Huh?
Stone and Williams.
Yeah. So they were all sitting down in this sit down. That day fucked me up after the fact. Not so much, obviously that everything happened the way it did, but that day, and I told Donnerstag about this not long ago because I never really said anything about it. So when we were out there that day, when we were providing security, there was a truck. There was a pickup truck with like those black, like almost like fencing type things going around the side of it. And there was a bunch of dudes in back. And I didn't pay it any mind, but I saw it rolling. Basically, it went in a big, huge, like further down on one side. And then I saw it again on the way back to where we wound up going down that road back. And I know that those were the guys that put those bombs out there that day, because when they wound up going back, whoever went back after we got hit said that they were basically set up in all the
Like
routes out.
Oh, really?
They weren't there beforehand. So I know that truck, and I wish like I had a weird feeling about it. I wish I would have said something because I feel like it could have avoided, that happening the way it did, which you can't think like that. It just is what it is. But that's one of the things that have always haunted me on that. If I'd have said something on that one.
Sucks,
Yeah,
man.
no, so that night, or it was afternoon, but turned into night. I just remember like you came running up, asked what I could do to help, and it was you and Andahar. I was like, fuck, because there was that one little house right there, and you guys.
Oh, hold on,
hold
back up then, because let's get the story, going from where we were. So we did the little sit down. We were on our way out, whatever. We're rolling down that road. It's Donnerstag.
Let's listen. We come off of the main road. We shoot
No.
down.
At that point in time, we were already done with the little
Sure.
sit down. So we didn't,
Yeah.
so we didn't even go to the main road. We were literally leaving the compound, and there was that one road that we took back to the main road.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Is where we got hit.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we're on our way back to the main road from that compound, and I remember it was
Nothing really
Donnerstag
stuck
truck.
out, dude. It was just like a normal.
No, the only thing, like I said, the only thing that stuck out to me that day was that truck with all the guys in the back of it. That's what stuck out to me about that day. So we're rolling back out, and then all of a sudden, boom. And it's Donnerstag's truck, my truck, and then
Yeah, because me and you were in the same truck. We were in Vic too.
It was me, you, and Dahar, and I don't remember.
Bishop was on the gun in our truck, and then fuck.
DeMarco?
I don't remember.
Was DeMarco driving?
I think it might have been. Yeah.
So obviously, boom, all that kind of shit. We're the second truck, rolling right behind them. Once the dust settles, everybody's initial reaction was like, fuck. And then everybody starts moving. So now me and it would have been me and then you on the same side, I believe. And then Andahar next to you in the back.
Yeah, it could have been, man.
Right. So either way, though, we jump out of the truck and I'm telling Andahar, I was like, look, let's go get this compound, this little building that's here. Let's go clear that, make sure there's nothing in there. Yeah. And then let's push up to the truck. So you're moving already towards the truck. And I remember yelling to you, watch for a secondary or anything along the side. So you're already moving up. Me and Andahar kicked the door in on that little house or whatever it was. Clear that. Nobody there, whatever. We push back out. We get up to where you're at. Me and you go and start helping Donnerstag out of the truck.
No, I had already pulled him out. We were helping Stone out of the truck.
We were helping Stone out of the truck. We moved Donnerstag further away from the truck afterwards, is what me and you did.
Yeah.
So, we were getting Stone out of the truck. Donnerstag, you had gotten out of the truck. And then we were sitting there, we're like, where is Cervantes? Where is Fry? And Cervantes, we go around the other side of the truck. He's laid out, about 10, 15 feet away from the truck.
Yeah,
in a prone.
Yeah, he's laid down in the prone, but you could tell he was fucked up.
Yeah.
Oh, he's bad. Yeah.
So, we grabbed him or whatever, got him back to where Donnerstag was. We found Fry just kind of walking in circles.
Yeah.
And then we got him back to where Donnerstag and Cervantes was. And then from there.
Yeah, to the little CCP. Yeah.
Right. And then we moved because we had to move. All I remember is we had to move Donnerstag. And the way I found out that his leg was so messed up was because when I grabbed him, there was blood. And so you were working on that once we got him set down or wherever we were at, you were taking care of that. I was trying to help out Cervantes, but then there was I believe Staff Sergeant Williams was out there that night,
Was.
but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
They went up to the trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I was running to all the other trucks trying to get a 9-line sent out. So we're trying to get a 9-line sent out, but obviously truck 1 was down. Ours, for whatever reason, in truck 2, the Blue Force tracker went out, and then the other truck was having issues. So it took us longer to get the 9-line out. Once we got the 9-line out, there was still no word back on that, because remember they added that extra page on the 9-line?
Yeah.
That's why they didn't get a bird out until they finally flew a drone out and saw how many guys we had laying on the ground. And then they were like, okay, we need to send one out, which blew my mind.
Dude, remember Anglico showed up.
No.
With the Georgian.
It was the Georgian.
It's me and you. Yes, because you were sitting there and I fucking had to sit down. I sat down for a second. I was like, dude, give me a smoke.
Yeah.
And the George rolled in and I go, dude, I've never been happier to see these motherfuckers.
Right, because we were always at odds with the Georgians a lot of times.
Well, it was just getting dark.
Right.
Yeah.
But so the Georgians rolled up and they helped out a lot. And they basically were able to provide security for us, because had anything else happened that night, it'd have been a shit show, because we had what? Line Weber was in that truck too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He banged up his leg and got concussed. But
honestly, just let's think how shitty was it just coming back to the base after that, dude? Just
there
back
was
to
still more. There was still more in that though. So now we got Fry, who was concussed, walking around in circles and God knows doing what.
Yes.
To the point where I had to put him in the back of a Mat V in the cage and be like, just sit here. And then we're getting ready, we're putting everybody on the helicopter. Well, I almost got ran over by the helicopter that night, because I'm sitting there doing the buzzsaw. So I'm doing the buzzsaw and I forgot to drop the chem lights, and I'm moving and the helicopter's following me. And then finally I dropped the chem lights and we were all good, whatever. But so we're getting ready to get all these guys. We're lifting the stretchers, putting them on the helicopter and stuff like that. And Fry is sitting there and he's trying to get on this, because he got on the helicopter. Because Line Weber did
really concussed.
Fry did. We took Line Weber back to Delaram,
right.
So
Fry got on the helicopter. Yes. Weber. So Fry tried to get on the helicopter with my rifle. He didn't realize that he had my rifle and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting there arguing with him. I'm like, Fry, you have an M16. I have an M4. Like, that is my rifle.
I remember he was stuck with an M16.
Yeah. And then finally he decided to give me back my rifle after a minute. But because he had taken it when I put it on the stretcher with, I don't even remember if it was Cervantes or Donnerstag, but I had the sling, or I had it on the stretcher with him. And then I went to go grab it and Fry took it, tried to get on the helicopter with it. And I was like, no. But then, Fry, what was it you were telling me about the other? What was it that you were telling me about the other day with Fry with bringing over the medical kit?
Oh, dude. So I'm sitting there and I'm working on Dan. Stone's hanging out of the fucking vehicle. I'm yelling underneath the shot hole. I'm yelling to the fucking raft. I'm like, dude, are you good? Are you good? He's like, I'm not great, but it's okay. I'm like, fuck, I'll be right there. And fucking, I just see Fry come walking up with this fucking med bag, because we kept the ones in the back of the truck too. And he's like, here. And I'm like, I'm right here. I've already got all my shit, dude. And I'm like, go sit the fuck down, dude. Somebody watch him, please.
That's because I think that's the second time I had to put him in a truck.
Yeah, dude. He was fucking on Queer Street, dude. He got rocked real good too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, just go sit the fuck down. I was like, I got this. And you came, and I mean, you showed up, and after you guys cleared that house and everything, you showed up, and you're like, bah, and you jumped right in with me, and you were helping me, and I was not instructing you really, but you're like, what do I need to do? And I'm like, do this, this, and this, and you're like,
Right.
go. Yeah.
Long ass night, man. That's for sure.
That it was.
Fuck, dude. Fuck.
It was
Yeah,
surreal
it
too.
was.
Then you get back to the base afterwards. Well, before that though, the crazy shit was it took what? Almost
An hour and a half.
no, it was longer than that. It was
I
an
was gonna
hour,
say 3
an
hours,
hour and a
dude.
half. It was like almost 2 hours to get the bird out there. So we were sitting for about 2 hours before the bird got there. And then it took them another like 4 hours to get a wrecker out there to come get the truck.
That's right. Yeah, you
It
are
was
right.
like a total of 6 hours of sitting out there.
Yeah, and dude, and it was fucked up. But I had, in my dump pouch, I had the pants I had to cut off, Dan, and because they're covered in blood, obviously, and the ones off a raft. And I
Right.
just stuffed them in my dump pouch, dude, because I didn't want any of the guys to see it. You know what I mean? Because that'll fuck with you mentally a little bit.
Yeah,
Right.
of course.
So yeah, I just when we
Honestly,
got
bro,
back to base after
the whole
that,
team was we were all just down after that, man. Like that was our leader, bro.
Right. But it was crazy too, because like I said, it almost didn't feel real at first. You know what I mean? Like you get back to the base and
absolutely.
then we were missing 4 of the guys that we had with us.
When's the
Mhm.
last time you saw Donnerstag, bro?
Me? I saw him one of the times when I was up in New Jersey.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I saw probably like 3 years ago. It's been too long though.
But I'm saying after that time.
Oh, after that, it was what?
So that was 2011.
Yeah, so 2019.
Damn.
Dude,
So
that
it
was
was
the last time I saw him. I
Right.
was putting him on that bird.
Yeah, that's how it was for me for a while. And then luckily I was up in New Jersey and I got to see him.
Yeah, Martin, you got to see him soon, man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we
I
got
mean,
everybody
me and him.
together.
Oh yeah, like me and him have talked a bunch, but
Yeah.
yeah, just seeing him in person, dude. Fuck, let the fucking waterworks start going.
Man, Fry told a
I'll
real
probably
ass story
cry.
when he was on when Fry was on the podcast. He talked about going to the hospital and him leaving the hospital, him going to see Dan before he left, and it was just, he broke down talking to him.
Right.
That must have been a tough one. Can only imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no shit. Like, and I told Fry like that was because remember when we went to Delaram and we got Fry back because we thought Tyler was just going home. But
Right.
they let him come back.
I'm surprised.
Dude,
I was surprised they let him come back as soon as he did.
Yeah, dude. He was fucking rocked. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean,
Hey, he took it like a
give him
champ.
more brain damage than they already fucking had. But no, dude, like I said it on the podcast with me and you, Nick, with him. I fucking cried, dude, when I hugged his ass. I was like,
That's because you like men.
and
Dude.
yeah,
I'm just messing with you, bud. Come on, I'm gonna bust
I know,
balls.
brother. Sorry, I'm telling like a serious story, and you just got to go with the gay joke. So
I'm
fuck
kidding.
you.
I'm kidding. So, all right, coming home. I mean,
So
shit. We go.
hold
That's some
on,
heavy shit, man. You come home from that, like, how was it?
Nick, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So fucking Zach's call sign was Sunshine. And
I don't ever
was
remember
getting
calling
him
him that.
On
It
the
was
radio.
Sunshine,
Yeah.
was it not?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we got back, because obviously you fuck up and you're gonna get made fun of for it. I was like, we're changing your call sign to Buzzsaw.
Yep.
Because he was running the Buzzsaw.
I remember
Yeah.
what was it? I think it was Cisneros or Johnson or one of them telling me about how they were just watching me run from the helicopter.
Yeah.
And then
And those dudes are flying in on fucking nods, so all they can see is the infrared fucking chem
right,
lights.
moving away from them.
Yeah. They're like, well, we'll just follow it.
Right.
Wait, what happened?
So when the helicopter was coming in, right, I had the buzz saw and which is, a string or 550 cord with a couple chem lights, the IR chem lights tied to it, and you spin it above your head. And basically that's once the helicopter gets close, you drop it and you take off and you let it land there. I wasn't thinking because I was focused on everything else. And I was spinning it, and I saw this helicopter getting super close. I wasn't even registering that I was still spinning this chem lights. So now I'm walking away, and the helicopter is following me, like as I'm moving away, because I'm still spinning the buzz saw, or they're spinning the IR chem lights.
Yeah.
And finally, as it's coming closer and closer, I'm like, ah, shit, I got to get out of here. And I dropped them, and I took off.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
Rookie mistake. No, I'm just kidding.
Such is life. There was a lot of shit going on that night.
We kind of had a weird after that it kind of just like womp womp womp, like without Cervantes and Donnerstag it was
it was really weird because realistically at that point in time, like shortly after that I got promoted to sergeant. Finally won my fourth try, meritorious, because I was getting beat by Jesus and females. You
were.
So, but that's something I'll still to this day never understand. 4950 pros and cons, and then McMappin.
Let's not try to understand that bullshit.
It doesn't make any sense. But either way, fourth time's the charm. They promoted me with a crayon written warrant shortly after that whole thing. It was a different feel after that. You know what I mean? We had about, when did that happen? It was in April.
Yeah,
April 4th, 2011.
Right. So we had still almost 2.5 months left out there after that.
Yeah.
And the pace didn't slow down. It stayed the same. Finding IEDs and stuff like that. And
we kind of stayed on Route 1 after that.
No.
Yeah.
No. We did a lot more down Route 1, yes. Yeah. But we were still up and down 606 and, all that kind of stuff. But then I think the Georgians started pitching in a little bit more on that route, which took a little bit off us on that one. And
until they blew the fucking asses up. And we had to go out and fucking.
Right.
Is everyone okay?
There was always something. But, it was a different pace after that, because I think everybody was a lot more serious.
Of course.
After that, you know what I mean? Nobody was playing games.
Nobody. Yeah, it wasn't any games after that.
It was what it was. If something wasn't right, you just went with it.
Yep.
So it was that was a game changer in that deployment for I think most of us.
Yeah, they're definitely even though for the most part, all of us were fucking boys. You know what I mean? We're all on a first name basis, all that. But dude, there was a fucking tension, Jesus, dude. And it just was, it was fuck. Because, we Don and Raph, I mean, those are two of the best fucking guys I've ever met in my life. So there was that tension there, and it fucking kind of boiled up. But yeah, it definitely changed the fucking scheme of things for sure.
Right.
What's I don't know, what's a takeaway for you Leclair after all that and coming home and now being out of the Marine Corps for a while? I mean, I think about that still constantly, man. That was probably one of the best times of my life. I grew up a lot on that.
100%, man. If I could go back tomorrow, I would. Especially to that with the same type of team that we had. Stuff like that. I wouldn't have changed it for anything. Those were some of the best times of my life. Some of the worst times, but some of the best times at the same time. And it's always funny to me, man, because you know what? When I came back, I did another deployment to the Philippines where they were doing their little, they had their Muslim war down there going on and stuff like that. And, you know, you do these things, and I think the biggest eye opener to me was about the difference in how people look at you, you know, is a big thing. Like, you come back and you do these things and you do stuff. Once you become a product of your environment, you know what I mean? Like, you get so used to being on guard and, you know, watching what's going on around you. You're not comfortable sitting in a crowded restaurant. You want to sit, you know, back to a wall, you know, in a corner where you can see the room, see the exit, stuff like that, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And people start to look at people that, you know or whatever, they look at you differently. You know what I mean? Like, you do all this stuff and then people think you're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they really do. They look at you in a whole different light, and you're just sitting there and you're like, yo, like, I'm not fucking crazy. I've done and seen a lot of things that
been through some
most
shit,
people
been through some real
never-
shit, man. That's what it
have
is.
never
I'm
dealt with in their lives.
situationally aware.
Right. I am very, everywhere I go, you know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. But it's just crazy to see how, even like, you know, for me, before I got out, I was planning on doing 20. You know, I got into a real bad car accident, and after my deployment to the Philippines, I came back stateside. You know, I got into a really bad car accident, wound up in a wheelchair for about 4.5 months, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And,
I remember that.
you know, they had me, when I was in Wounded Warrior Battalion, they had me going through, I did 22 weeks in the TBI clinic for catching my third traumatic brain injury. They had me going through tons of different PTSD and, you know, obviously outside of the regular rehab stuff, but they had me going through therapy and all this kind of stuff. And you get there and you sit down and, you know, you're talking with this Navy guy, nothing against the Navy, but you're talking with a Navy guy who has like 3 or 4 ribbons, and he's the one that's going to be sitting there talking to you about your problems in war, you know, and what you've done and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, bro, I can't take you seriously to look at my problems when you've never seen what I've seen or done anything.
I think that's a big
I've
part
done.
of it, dude. I think that's something I talk about a lot. You can't expect us to be willing to be open with these people that are supposedly, you know, PTSD experts, or people that are supposedly there to talk to us if you haven't walked in those footsteps. You haven't been in those scenarios, man. It's
right. And, you know, if you look at some of the guys from our deployment, you know, and everybody handles shit differently. You know what I mean? Like, I have always prided myself on being a very mentally strong person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one to get down on myself. I'm not one to dwell in the past. You know, I'm like, look, like, I've been through what I've been through. I've done what I've done, and you deal with it and move on from there. You know, not everybody has that same mindset. You know, I know a lot of guys that have been through less than we had, or some guys that have been through more than we had, but similar situations, whatever. And they have such a hard time coping with it, where for me, I don't know, like I said, I just look at things differently. You got to move on from it. You got to learn to accept it. You got to know that the things that you did were for certain reasons, whether it's true, it's not true, whatever it is, you can't dwell on it. You know what I mean? So that's one of the weirdest things, is coming back from stuff like that and people being like, well, you're just fucking crazy. This is like all type, you know, shit like that. That's probably one of the weirdest points to it.
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, gents, we are running out of time again. Zach, I want to thank you, man. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for talking with us, man. I know this stuff isn't the easiest to rehash, but you know, I personally, I love, you know, just talking with like-minded people and being able to have these conversations with someone someone that understands, man. You were there with me.
Right.
You know what it is, and you can appreciate these things. And
Right.
you know, I'm happy to see that you're doing well, and I hope that we can talk again, man.
Fine. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You always got my number, man.
Absolutely. Do you
We're gonna
want to
set something up.
you want to say anything before we sign off here?
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on here. You know, it was a good time. Definitely think we should do it a time where it's multiple of us, but
Yeah.
you know, but that's about it. Really, I had a good time.
It would be great to eventually.
Fucking
eventually get it in person with me, you, Donnerstag, Doc, and
I'm
Cervantes,
down.
dude. That'd
I'm
be
down.
dope. Be something cool we should get into. We should definitely try to plan that for the
Fucking
future, buddy.
none of us would get a word in edgewise, dude.
Yeah, I know, right?
But it'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Episode 53 in the books. Zach Leclair, Semper Five gents, and have a good night, guys.
Take it easy.
Rah.
Later, Bubba.